Welcome to Hunter Beyond Time and Space Chapter 9. Nightmare. I admit that I'm a slacker, but is stirring the shit with a stick even worth talking about? Lin Xiaoxiao glared at Yuan. I don't mind the boss scolding me, but why are you making a fuss? Just telling the truth, Yuan replied calmly. Speaking of business, how do you plan on testing that boy? Lin Xiaoxiao thought for a moment, then smiled meaningfully. Let him have a nightmare. Yuan frowned. That's enough. Don't worry. At that moment, there was a commotion behind the line of prisoners waiting for food, and Lin Xiaoxiao looked over. Prison 18 was like a huge, empty metal box, with 21 armed machine guards stationed around it during mealtimes. They had no human emotions and dealt with every sudden situation in the prison. 21 machine guards were a bit few compared to over 3,000 prisoners, but each prisoner here knew that the drones hovering over their heads and a six-barreled metal storm were the real threats. Cold and powerful. At noon, all the prisoners came to the cafeteria on time and lined up outside, then took turns getting their food by floor. Not only that, but each prisoner had to stand in their designated spot. If a new prisoner couldn't remember their spot in the line, the machine guards would immediately warn them. If they still couldn't get to their spot, the machine guards would use electric shocks and then escort them to their spot. In the morning, the new prisoners went through a welcome ceremony and were immediately shocked by the machine guards. They were dizzy and couldn't remember where they were originally standing. The old prisoners waited for them to make fools of themselves, which seemed to be the standard entertainment after each new prisoner was brought in. At this moment, the old prisoners suddenly felt that something was wrong. Why wasn't the boy who played chess with Uncle Li punished? Everyone looked around the crowd and saw Qing Chen standing in his designated spot, calmly watching everything. Strange, each line had at least 500 people. How could this boy find his spot among so many strangers? And Qing Chen was looking at the newcomers, who were imprisoned with him. Each of the new prisoners had no visible injuries, but they walked in a strange way, as if they were enduring pain. It seemed that the prisoners had some sense of proportion and did not hit their faces or inflict fatal injuries. He walked forward with his tray, but suddenly a hand pulled him out of the food line. Qing Chen was stunned. He turned to see Lin Xiaoxiao pulling him away and saying, "You don't have to line up with them anymore. Someone who can play chess with the boss shouldn't have to line up." Qing Chen instinctively looked at the machine guards, afraid that he would be punished for leaving the line. But he found that the machine guards completely ignored him and urged other prisoners to fill his spot. Qing Chen couldn't understand. Even if Uncle Li and the others had special identities, they shouldn't be so special, right? Lin Xiaoxiao pulled him through the long rows of lines, got food, and sat down across from Uncle Li, all in one smooth motion. The prisoners on both sides watched silently, with all eyes fixed on Qing Chen. The noisy environment suddenly quieted down, as if everyone was holding their breath. At that moment, they realized that Qing Chen was no longer the same as them. Lin Xiaoxiao squatted on a chair next to Qing Chen and smiled. Don't be surprised. Someone who can play chess with the boss naturally deserves some special treatment. Hurry up and eat, although the food in prison 18 is not good. Qing Chen looked up at Uncle Li across from him, who was eating slowly and had no intention of talking to him. He looked back at the crowd, and the prisoners in the line were quietly giving him thumbs up. Qing Chen didn't understand. In the morning, Uncle Li was only willing to play chess with him, but why did his attitude towards him change so much after just one morning? Was it because of his identity in this world? At 8:40 p.m., Qing Chen returned to his cell at the designated time. When everyone else was queuing up to return to their cells, he tried to move freely outside the line, and sure enough, the machine guards no longer paid attention to him. As long as he was walking towards his cell, the machine guards wouldn't focus on him. The prisoners looked at him with jealousy as he walked down the long corridor, like a lone wolf. The single cell was empty, and after the alloy gate closed, he went to the sink to brush his teeth and wash his face. But after taking just a few steps, Qin suddenly felt a strong drowsiness come over him. This drowsiness was abnormal. Even if he had overused his brain during the day, he shouldn't be so tired that his willpower couldn't support him. Something was wrong. Before he had time to think, Qin fell to the ground. In his dream, Qin was standing in a dimly lit villa living room. At first, he knew it was a dream, and he was also aware that his body was still in the cell. But 2 seconds later, he forgot everything, as if he was supposed to be here, and he no longer remembered that this was a dream. The villa living room had a wood fire burning in the fireplace, and there was a unique damp smell in the room. The moisture in the room was being evaporated by the fireplace and condensed on the ceiling. The high ceiling had a crystal chandelier, but Qin looked around and couldn't find the switch. The room was full of a strange feeling. Qin's pupils suddenly narrowed. There were bloodstains on the stairs leading to the second floor. There were claw marks on the sofa in the living room, and the leather was cut open by sharp claws. On the fireplace stand were picture frames, and the glass of the picture frames was smashed, and the photos were missing. There were gray-blue knife marks on the wall, and when the fireplace flames flickered, the marks on the wall and the cracks on the sofa were twisting in a strange way. On the carpet, there was a bloody dagger. Someone had written 2 prominent characters in blood next to the carpet, "Ghost." Knock, 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 came the sound of knocking on the door. Qin took a deep breath. He didn't touch anything in the room and walked to the door. "Who is it?" A relaxed voice came from outside. "Police, badge number 27149, did you report an incident? Please open the door." Qin frowned. The voice of the other party sounded very familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it before. Strange, was there something wrong with his memory? He hesitated and opened the door. Outside was a young police officer holding a case record book in his hand. As soon as the door opened, the police officer saw blood flowing down the stairs leading to the second floor. He quickly walked up the stairs and said as he walked, "Caller, please stand still and lock the door." Qin was a bit confused. The police officer's style of doing things seemed to be inconsistent with the procedures, and he didn't even have a gun. But for some reason, he subconsciously obeyed the other party's orders. The young police officer went upstairs, while Qin stood at the door. In less than half a minute, there was knocking on the door again. Qin asked, "Who is it?" "Police, badge number 27149. Did you report the case? Please open the door." Qin was stunned. Wasn't badge number 27149 already upstairs? Then who was outside the door? At that moment, someone in his subconscious mind suddenly asked him in a gloomy voice, "What would you do now? Can you guess which one is real, the one inside the door or the one outside? Or maybe neither is real." The police officer outside the door urged, "Hello, please open the door." Qin took a deep breath and walked towards the room again. He wanted to bend over and pick up the blood-stained dagger on the ground, but there seemed to be a transparent obstacle between him and the dagger. He was only 1 step away from the dagger, but he could never touch it. Someone didn't want him to take the knife. Someone wanted to trap him here. But the countdown on his arm was still ticking, and his heart and blood were still beating and flowing. He came to this cold mechanical world alone without any attachments, and there was no turning back. "Get out of the way," Qin said coldly. His pupils narrowed again, as if all his courage had turned into a sharp blade, cutting something off. The sound of broken glass suddenly rang out in the empty living room of the villa, and the obstacle between him and the dagger was shattered. Someone made a soft sound of surprise. Qin Chen picked up the knife, turned around and walked towards the stairs. Suddenly, a voice from somewhere asked him, "What are you going to do with the knife? Aren't you going to open the door for the police officer?" Qin Chen replied coldly, "I'll open it after I kill the person inside." Lin Xiaoxiao. At this moment, Qin Chen finally remembered that when he broke the obstacle with the knife earlier, he also broke the screen that blocked his memory in this nightmare created by Lin Xiaoxiao. He recognized that it was Lin Xiaoxiao's voice, and the young police officer was also Lin Xiaoxiao's appearance. He was in the nightmare created by Lin Xiaoxiao. This world seemed to be more interesting.